is local, it is late breaking, it is midnight Tuesday morning, just outside of Washington, D.C., where the Washington Wizards are starting their NBA training camp, and we are here to show it to you live on NBA TV. Glad you could join us. David Aldridge here, along with Ron Thompson, and the Washington Wizards getting started after one of the worst years a franchise could ever have. Earlier on Monday on NBA TV, we saw the defending world champion Los Angeles Lakers open their training camp. Now, in all honesty, you're seeing kind of the other side of the NBA coin. The Washington Wizards are rebuilding. They are starting from scratch again, but they have a couple of good pieces to start with. First of all, the #1 pick in the draft, John Wall.
When you look at John Wall, he's one of those guys, he's a true point guard, and that's a position that the Wizards have needed for quite some time now. He's one of those guys that has a knack for just setting guys up, but he also knows when the play is on him, and he has the ability to go ahead and take it if he has to. And then you couple with him a guy like Gilbert Arenas, who's now back in the fold. He's one of those guys that we all know what Gilbert can do. Now it's just a matter of, is his leg strong? Can he play with a John Wall? But these are two guys that are going to be one of the most explosive backcourts that you're going to see this year in the NBA.
There's no question the Wizards are going in a different direction now. When you add a Kirk Heinrich, as well as they picked up on draft day in a trade with Chicago, they have a very interesting backcourt. We should go out and look at some of the action as they just began their scrimmage. The Wizards getting underway here, but we want to talk about some of the young men, as you're going to see through the next 90 minutes, that they have. This is Sean Marks, a veteran player who's played for a lot of teams, was with the Hornets last year. In all honesty, probably not going to make this team, but you need bodies in camp, obviously, and the Wizards looking for people to get them through. As you see, the #1 pick, John Wall.
You know, when you take a look at this year's team, you're going to see an experienced backcourt. You're going to see some guys that can get it done in the backcourt. Their front court, their post guys. Can a JaVale McGee, can he last through an entire NBA season? Can he be productive consistently? Last year, his minutes were up and down. You know, he didn't really know exactly when he was going to be on the floor. So this year will be his chance to prove to a lot of people in the NBA that he belongs. And then you take a look at a guy like an Andre Blatch. He's a guy that has been dying to be put in a situation where he's depended upon consistently. Well, he has it right now. He just signed a new contract extension. He came out and said the Washington Wizards is the team that he wanted to be with for the long haul. So now he's in the fold. He's injured right now. He's got to get healthy, but he's going to be a main go-to guy. He's one of those guys that can post up on the block. He can get you points on the block, but he can face up and do some things on the perimeter as well.
You know, the Wizards want to turn the page off of last season, and that's understandable.
Right.
But we have to be honest here. The Wizards had a terrible season last year, a tragic season. We have to go back and look exactly what happened to this basketball team. It started in late November. The longtime owner of this team, he had owned the team for 45 years, Abe Pollin, died after a long illness, and then things got worse, if you can believe that. We all know what happened in December right around Christmas. Gilbert Arenas brought guns into the Verizon Center locker room. He was involved in an incident with his teammate, Javaris Crittenden. The league and D.C. law enforcement found out about that, and on January 6th, David Stern, the commissioner, suspended Gilbert Arenas indefinitely. After Arenas and Javaris Crittenden pled guilty to felony gun charges, David Stern suspended them both for the rest of the season. They both missed the last 50 games of the regular season. After that, the Wizards said, hey, we got to start over. This season's been a disaster. They traded Caron Butler, Brendan Haywood, and Deshaun Stevenson to the Mavericks for Josh Howard.
That was the most pivotal part, I thought, of last year. When they decided to get rid of Antoine Jamison, Caron Butler, you knew they were starting fresh. You knew they were going in a totally different direction.
4 days after that trade, as you mentioned, they trade Antoine Jamison to Cleveland. They get Al Thornton from the LA Clippers, somebody they had liked for a couple of years. And then things started to turn around finally for this team. Ted Leonsis, a minority owner, former executive at AOL.com, finally reached an agreement to buy majority interest in this team, inject some energy in this team. The owner of the Washington Capitals, he's turned that franchise around, looking to do the same thing with the Wizards. And on May 18th, the Wizards win the draft lottery, defying the odds. Irene Pullen, the widow of Abe Pullen, in Secaucus when the Wizards get the #1 pick in the draft. And on June 24th, to the surprise of nobody, they take John Wall out of Kentucky with the #1 pick. And things have continued to go from there. They get Kirk Heinrich. they get two big bodies on draft night. Kaveen Serafine, a big, promising guy from France, and they also get Trevor Booker, a big guy from Clemson. Simple reason, they didn't want to get pushed around anymore.
No question. That was one of the knocks on the Wizards. They were a little bit soft last year, and this year you can tell going into the draft, they wanted to get highly competitive guys, as you see Booker with the turnaround jump shot there on the post. Booker and Serafine are two guys that totally believe the shortest distance between 2 points is right through you. They're not going to dance around you. They're going to bring that presence in the post.
Here's Gilbert Arenas, and let's watch a little bit of the scrimmage. As you see, Kirk Heinrich bringing the ball up, and the Wizards getting going with training camp with here with a little midnight madness. The steal by Al Thornton. The Wizards rebuilding, starting over. As Ernie Grunfeld, the team president, said last year, the group that had shown so much promise had gotten stale. They just had not accomplished much of anything the last 3 years. And so they broke it up, and they're building again around John Wall, the #1 pick in the draft out of the University of Kentucky. And you see there the potential that they see in John Wall, the ability to pass and get the ball to open guys. He likes to pass.
Well, what makes him so dangerous is this what you said. He has the ability, the natural ability to set guys up, but what makes him such a threat is he still has that ability to score. If you back off of John Wall, he's going to make you pay with he has a nice 18-foot jump shot, and he can go by you at a moment's notice.
The main thing that people are going to want to know about the Washington Wizards, and it's the thing that I've heard all summer about the Washington Wizards. Can Gilbert Arenas and John Wall play together in the same backcourt? John Wall is going to have the ball. Gilbert Arenas has had the ball most of the last few years. Can these two guys play together?
Well, one thing that comes to mind, the one word is sacrifice. I think both of them are going to have to sacrifice to a certain degree. Gilbert is accustomed to constantly having the ball in his hands. You go out, you draft a John Wall. He is the future of this organization. He is a true point guard. He's going to have the ball in his hands. So I think that Gilbert's going to have to sacrifice a little bit as a result, as it relates to that. But they're still going to need the Gilbert that's capable of getting 40 points a night. You know, they're going to need him to produce at a high clip in terms of scoring. Because when I look at this roster, the way it's currently comprised, that is one of the weaknesses. Other than Gilbert, where are the points going to come from? And then the other question is, David, is can Gilbert still give it to you like he used to be able to? Can he still give you 25 to 30 points, occasionally give you 40?
That is a big question that Flip Saunders wants to answer. He said today at their media day that he's going to, at many times this year, play 3 guards. He's going to play Heinrich, Arenas, and Wall at the same time. It feels like they can play together.
Well, what has to happen, you have to build towards your strength. You know, you can sit back and you can say what we don't have, but they are strong in the backcourt. This is one of those teams that their guard is their strong point. So why not put them out there, see what kind of flexibility you have, see what kind of dexterity, see what kind of problems you can cause your opponents by going to your strength.
You see the Wizards' record with and without Arenas last year. Frankly, they weren't very good with him. They weren't very good without him. They had a very, very difficult season last season. They scored a little bit more with him, but their field goal percentage was down.
You can't look at those numbers and totally project what this team is going to do, because it's a totally different team. You know, they're not going to have some of the difficulties that they had last year, and they're hoping to get just a little bit better than they were last year.
When we saw Gilbert Arenas, you know, there's been a lot of questions, obviously, about his physical abilities the last couple of years. As you see some of that
Gilbert is healthy. If you look at him, you don't see the knee braces. His body looks good. He looks shredded. He looks in condition. The year off, if there was a benefit, he was able to get his leg 100%. It's strong now. He's ready to go, I think, physically.
Remember, he is 2 years removed now from his last knee operation. And everything that I've learned in 20 years of covering this league is that when you have a reconstructive type procedure on your knee, it is a minimum of 18 months before you even begin to feel anything close to what you used to feel like.
And that is why, as they throw me the ball,
good hands,
and that is why they are really, that's why he's benefited from this time off, because now his leg is 100%. Physically, he's ready to go. I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any doubt with that. The psychological aspect, does he really feel? It's natural to question yourself at times. He's got to be asking himself, can I get back to the same level? He's one of those guys, he can't wait till training camp starts so he can not only see where his teammates are, but to see where he is.
He has been working out here for the last month and a half, really, in Washington and Chicago. I was in Chicago last week, and talking to some of the people at Tim Grover's place, Attack Athletics, he was in that run out in Chicago with a lot of Karan Butler and a lot of NBA pros were there, and they said Arenas looked fantastic. And I know it's summer league and it's summer run. I understand that.
Right.
But when you're playing against pros, not guys in Vegas who probably aren't going to make the team. When you're playing against pros, and the pros tell you, hey, Gilbert's good. He's back.
No question. Your peers usually judge you an awful lot harder than the guys sitting around in suits. And I got the same report that he looks quicker, he looks more explosive than he even did in years past.
One of the guys that the Wizards are going to count on, because they really right now, if there's a position where they don't have an incumbent, it's small forward. And Josh Howard, the guy they got from the Mavericks in that three-player deal last year, has really impressed them to the point where they brought him back this year. Even though he suffered an ACL tear in February, he's not going to be part of camp for a while. He's not going to really do much in camp. They don't expect him back on the court until, honestly, really December is when he'll probably be back, although there's a chance he could be back in late November as he gets back to that ACL, he gets back to health, because he's just not ready yet to do basketball drills and basketball activity.
Well, Josh is a former All-Star in this league. That is why they brought him back. They're hoping that he can get back to being 100%. As you saw last year, before he did go down with an injury, he poses a problem for you, even though he wasn't 100%. He's a scoring threat. He can get to the basket. He can knock down shots. He's one of those guys at the small forward, at the wing position, that knows what it takes to get it done in the NBA at a high level. And that, with him being down, though, that's going to free up some time for a guy like a Nick Young. He's going to be called upon to step up. I think it opens up a huge window for a guy like Adam Morrison. He's now in a situation where, even though he's coming in trying to make this team, he's in a situation where he's going to have a legitimate shot to be on this roster. And when it's all said and done, I think he'll have a great chance to make this ball club.
Well, yeah, he is one of the interesting stories, Adam Morrison, on this team, as you mentioned. Here's E as he gets, and that's what Amadi Njai does. He blocks shots. Now, in all honesty, they really would rather have Njai play over in Europe this year, because there's just not going to be minutes for him. But they like his potential. They think he's a guy that really, down the road 2 or 3 years, could be a very interesting prospect for them.
Well, Njai's one of those guys that he knows what he is. He doesn't try to do things he can't. He likes to stay around the basket. He's a physical banger, runs like a deer, and blocks shots with the best of them. He's one of those guys that when the shots goes up, when you go to shoot, you better be peeking over your shoulder. He's one of those guys, though, that I think that has an opportunity, if he goes overseas, to mature, tighten up his game just a little bit, but he'll be back in this league.
The Wizards are going to have a lot of interesting battles up and down the roster. We talked again about the Lakers at the start, who you saw in real training camp earlier on NBA TV. The Lakers, everybody knows what their role is on the Lakers. Everybody knows who's going to start, who's going to come off the bench, how many minutes they're going to play. With the Wizards, other than we know John Wall's going to start, and McGee's probably going to start, and Arenas is going to start, we really don't know much about who's going to play on this team. How does Flip Saunders bring in so many new guys and also establish roles in a short period of time?
Well, it's a difficult task, but from a player standpoint, that's what you want. You want an opportunity. All you hear in this league, especially from the guys that don't log huge minutes, I just want my shot.
I just want to be able to play. I just want to get to the point where I can get on the floor and show the coach. Well, this is a team. When you look at a guy like a JaVale McGee, when you look at a guy like Armstrong, who's trying to prove to people that he belongs in this league, when you look at a guy like Adam Morrison, these guys have the opportunity to show Flip what they can do.
Let's go to Flip Saunders right now. He is mic'd up.
We got Heinrich, Arenas, Morrison, Booker, and Yee. You guys are black. Okay, white team, Wall, Young, Thornton, Armstrong, and McGee. You guys are white, okay? We'll go 10 minutes, the other group's coming in, okay? Black and stay. Running clock, it'll stop for free throws, otherwise it'll keep on running. Huh? Yeah, we got referees, huh? No, we'll switch it up. You guys are going to play the first two. Okay, let's jump it up. Here we go. Yeah, we're ready to go.
You know, Flip Saunders said today at Media Day, this is like going back to school for him. You know, I mean, his background as a college coach, also as a CBA coach, with all these new young guys, he really is excited about the ability to teach again and have impact on guys. Because when he was with Minnesota, once they got to a certain level, I mean, there really wasn't much more he could teach Kevin Garnett. I mean, you know, it's a maintenance thing at that point. But with these guys, they got a lot to learn.
Well, when you get into coaching, because of the rapport, because you like to implore the knowledge that you have onto the young men that you're working with. And when you have a young squad like he has here, a lot of teaching is going to take place. And let's be honest, last year, he didn't have an opportunity to coach.
Right.
He was more of a psychologist. He was putting out fires. He was dealing with all the madness that was going on. This year, he has an opportunity to get back to being a coach, to get back to being creative, to get back to showing why a guy like Ernie Grunfeld brought him here.
Right.
And that's to be one of the most creative offensive minds in the game. And I think this year he will have the opportunity to try and get back to just coaching basketball.
We know Flip Saunders has one of the thickest playbooks in the NBA. And I wonder if you can use that thick a playbook with a young team that's trying to learn each other and learn the league at the same time. But he says he's going to throw the full playbook at them, and they're going to have to, you know, figure out what he wants to teach them, what they want to do.
Exactly. They're going to have to make their adjustments. They're going to have to learn on the fly. I think you see right now a situation where you're going to have Gil potentially going up head-to-head against John Wall. This is going to be an interesting matchup.
I thought they may not, you know, have them on opposite teams, but this could be interesting.
And I had an opportunity to see those guys go at it in pickup games this summer, and they handled it well. It wasn't personal. I saw Gil talking to John, showing him some things. John was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, trying to take in all he can take. But as you saw right there, Gil is healthy. Yeah. You know, Gil has a knack for just putting the ball in the basket.
I think people need to remember this. I mean, there's been a lot written and said about Gilbert Arenas, and you know, we all know that what he did was really stupid, and he shouldn't have done it. He was averaging 22 and 7 when he got suspended.
And so that's coming off of missing the prior year.
The prior year. So don't get it twisted. This is one of the most prolific scorers in the NBA. And there's Adam Morrison. He, with the Lakers last year, got a ring, did not play, wants desperately to play, and will have an opportunity, perhaps, to play here in Washington.
And what makes him such a threat is he can knock down the long ball, but he has a knack for getting to the basket as well. As you see, he has a little curls off the elbow, drives, finishes with the left hand. Anytime you sit on the bench on teams that win back-to-back championships, even though he didn't log a lot of minutes, you learn something. You learn what it's like to be a professional. You learn what it's like to come to work every day. And he will be able to make the spot. I think he'll be able to play and surprise a lot of people.
Let's go back to Flip Saunders, who is mic'd up.
That's it, JaVale. Good attack, Yee. That's the way to be aggressive, Yee.
You hear Flip Saunders talking to E. Jianlan, and E had a very interesting summer. With Yao Ming out, not available to play for China, team in the World Championships, the Chinese team really went through E. He was the guy. and he responded with an excellent performance at the World Championships, and it really has boosted his confidence coming back to the NBA.
Which I think he really needed. You know, he averaged 20-plus points, 10-plus rebounds. He averaged a strong double-double. He's going to need the momentum from playing in the FIBA World Championships to carry over into this year, because he's ultra skilled. He can step out, he can knock down the jump shot facing, he can do some things with his back to the basket. He needs to get his confidence level up and show everyone why he was the 6th pick in the draft back in '07.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that obviously, you know, a lot of people saw potential, and it just didn't work out in Milwaukee. It didn't really work out in New Jersey either. And this, you know, you start running out of chances after a while, and he's going to get, I don't think there's a better opportunity for him to come in and show that he belongs in this league.
Again, as we said earlier, most guys say, all I want is a chance. A lot of guys on this ball club will have their opportunity to prove that they belong in this league.
And Ijian is a guy that is going to get that opportunity. In fact, the Wizards say they may play him at small forward some this year with Blotch and McGee up front. It'll be a big front court if nothing else.
But it's mobile. It's mobile. Andre Blatch can step in, can step out on the perimeter, do some things on the block. E can step out and do some things. He's very similar to Andre in a lot of different ways. And then you throw a guy like a JaVale McGee who runs like a deer, can clog up the middle. Very interesting combinations they'll be able to put on the floor this year.
This is Hilton Armstrong at the foul line. Hilton Armstrong, obviously a first-round pick from the Hornets a few years ago. It did not work for him in New Orleans, and he's up here on a one-year contract, minimum deal, trying again to show that he can play in this league. He's got length, he can block shots. The question is, can he be productive underneath? Can he defend at this level?
Well, he's a guy that has to come in and not worry about anything offensively. Just come out here, run the floor, bang, block shots, be a physical presence, and just let the game come to him. He'll get himself in trouble if he starts trying to be that low post scorer. They need a big body with experience in this league, which he has. Just play his role and things will work out.
There's JaVale McGee going inside, and you can see the athletic ability. If you watched NBA TV this summer and you saw the Vegas Summer League, you saw JaVale McGee and John Wall put on a show on more than one occasion.
When you speak of athletic ability, you need to find another word to describe what JaVale McGee does, because athletic ability, I think, is not doing it justice. He's a guy that I think now it's time for him to turn the corner. He got an awful lot of experience playing, trying out with Team USA, playing with at a very high level. He piqued the interest of a lot of people. Now he's in a situation where he knows he's going to log consistent minutes. It'd be very interesting to see if he's able to turn that corner and be one of the best big men in this league.
Good high-low there with Trevor Booker making the entry pass to E. And Trevor Booker is you know, the thing about him that a lot of people before the draft told me was that this is a very good basketball player.
No
he
question.
can make that pass, as you just saw him make. He knows how to play. He knows how to score. And obviously very physical player inside.
Let me tell you who a guy like a DeJuan Blair,
exactly.
The success that he had has helped a guy like a Trevor Booker. He's an undersized power forward. As John Wall shows you why he was the #1 pick in the draft. He's a guy that brings a physical presence, a seriousness about him.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that every day in practice is going to bring it. And if he doesn't play for 2 or 3 games, on the 3rd and 4th day when you call him, he will be ready.
Yeah, he's given them a much different look inside along with Serafine. I mean,
he's tough.
Yeah, they just, as you mentioned, just a very non-physical team last year. Frankly, the last few years, but that is starting to change with the Washington Wizards. Now that is an interesting matchup. You saw right there what Kirk Hinrich can do defensively and what the Wizards expect to see him do defensively.
Well, when you think of Kirk, as Gilbert shows you again, his ability to score.
We have to take a break right now on the dead ball, but we will be right back at George Mason University. It's Midnight Madness and Real Training Camp with the Washington Wizards. Stick around and you'll see more, much more, here on NBA TV. Welcome back to George Mason University. It is Real Training Camp with the Washington Wizards and Midnight Madness. Glad you could spend your Tuesday morning or late Monday night if you're on the West Coast with us here on NBA TV. David Aldridge, Ron Thompson, now joined by the majority owner, that's a good sound, isn't it, of the Washington Wizards, Monumental Sports and Entertainment, Washington Capitals. Is there anything you don't own, Ted Leonsis? in the
Patriot Center.
Patriot, but you're working on it, right?
So wonderful to see all these students out, so much energy, and it's great that the guys wanted to do this.
It really is. It's an amazing thing on a Monday night and a rainy Monday night in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of people in this building.
Yeah. Yep. You know, this is the heart of where our fan base should be, and we want to activate all of these people and students, get them introduced to the game early on.
Ted, what goes through your mind when you see for the first time your dream of owning a professional team starting to take shape, starting to develop?
Well, I want to see a very competitive camp. You know, the team wasn't very good the last couple of years, and Ernie did exactly the right thing in moving out some of the veteran players and trying to bring in some new blood. And we got lucky to be able to bring John Wall in with the first pick in the draft, and 3 first-round picks, lots of young blood, lots of competition, and our goal is to try and build a new culture and a new team that can qualify for the playoffs and obviously eventually compete and then win an NBA ring.
You have the experience of owning the Capitals in the NHL, and the similarities are very striking, obviously. And we talked about this before the lottery, that you said, hey, I was just lucky. We were lucky to get Alexander Ovechkin. We were lucky to win the first pick in the draft that year, but we had to build a team around him.
That's right. And, you know, we took our first start this year. We were very fortunate. We also brought in Yee and Heinrich via trade, and I think those are some good vets. And, you know, we have all these X factors. How's Gilbert going to play? Can a Morrison make the team? What kind of player is Serafin going to be? I do know that where we are in alignment is the kind of system that Flip wants to run. Ernie is bringing in players like that. We wanted to get bigger. We wanted to get longer. And I think right now, as you look out, we got a pretty big team.
No question. Going into the season, in your mind, do you have one goal? If you had to take a look at this team, taking into consideration where they were last year, what's one goal that you would like to see happen?
I'd like to see us establish an identity and know what Wizard basketball is about. I'd like us to be a really hard team to play against, especially at home. And then I'd like to see us start to coalesce once we have our identity and compete and make the playoffs.
You have built an incredible wired community around the Capitals over the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, the digital influence, all of the things that influence you have come to create an incredible community of people that follow that hockey team. What lessons will you apply from that to the Wizards?
I think you're seeing it right here. I think we got 4,000 or 5,000 kids here. We use Facebook, we use Twitter, we use my blog to promote it, and you know, the young people, they're wired. They're accustomed to that interactivity, and they want to be part of something. And so I just think blogging and being able to answer everyone's email and having the fans feel that it's their team is really what the new consumer wants.
All right, well, we have to ask you about this as we have a timeout here during the scrimmage. Gilbert Arenas comes back. You did not have to sign off on that. You could have said, hey, I'm the new owner, I don't want him here. Why did you say bring him back?
You know, statistically, Gilbert in his prime was one of the 10 best players in the league. And I got to know Gilbert a little bit, and I like him and respect him, and I think everyone needs redemption. I think everyone needs a second act, and all I asked Gilbert when I bought the team was come in great shape and very, very dedicated to the team. And he promised me he would do that, and he looks absolutely fantastic.
He does look great. Does he have a shorter...
Oh!
I was going to say, does he have a shorter leash, but he just banked in a 3 from 30 feet.
When you want to know why he asked Gilbert to come back, that's why.
And I think the crowd is appreciative.
Sometimes events overtake us, as we like to say in the news business. But what are some of the things you want to see from him as he reestablishes himself with the community and tries to rebuild the trust of the community?
Well, I've been talking to everyone, including Andre. We just extended Andre, and basically my message to Andre was, we told you we would have confidence in young players, and now you don't have to play for a contract. You can play for the team. And I think that's what the fans are looking for. They didn't like the team last year. There was too many individuals. I think Phil Jackson wrote a book once about the disease of me, or maybe it was Pat Riley.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I think that you get people that are so concerned about their individual stats that they don't care about team success. And what we need most is to show that we can coalesce and have an identity and have the fan base believe in us, and then have the players start to believe that the style of basketball that they play can be successful in the NBA.
You've had the opportunity to build other teams before, to build organizations, to build corporations, and you just touched on something. You said now he has a chance to play for the team. In this day and age where you start to see guys, you know, who tend to put the letter I in team, what did that show you, the fact that he was willing to come out of the box? Because he didn't have to redo his deal now. He could have waited.
Well, I think he believes in what we're saying, that we think we can be a young team right now that gets better and better and better, and that youth must be served in the league. You look at most teams, they get good by drafting and developing their own players. And, you know, you just saw JaVale McGee, young kid, young legs, still growing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, I think we're going to sneak up on a lot of people this year. I don't think people are giving us much credit because of what happened the last 2 seasons, but this is essentially a brand new team.
Right. Essential, almost not an expansion team, I don't want to say that, but you are starting from scratch here.
Yeah, and I'm unabashed about that. I think that's great. I love startups.
You've done pretty well by them, right?
Google was a startup once.
This is Lester Hudson, a great story out of Tennessee Martin that played very well. He played very well on the Summer League team for the Wizards, and here's John Wall.
It's like Vinnie Johnson. Ooh. Isn't that who Lester reminds you of?
Yes.
Kind of has that.
Definitely.
Give me the ball, I don't have to warm up.
Exactly. He's got that build, you know.
Well, Ted,
the microwave.
Thank you very much for stopping by. Best of luck to you.
Appreciate it. Hope to see you around the arena.
Absolutely.
Ronnie, thanks.
All right, we'll take a quick break here, and we'll get it back to the Patriot Center at George Mason University, looking at real training camp, Washington Wizards, on NBA TV. Back at George Mason University on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. in 2006, the George Mason University Patriots made the NCAA Final Four, one of the great Cinderella stories in recent college basketball history. The Washington Wizards would love to paint a tale like that this year in the NBA, but that's the difference between kids and men, right?
No question.
David Aldrich here with Ron Thompson as we go to real training camp, Washington Wizards, Midnight Madness style. And the Wizards right now, as you see, their #1 pick, John Wall, on the court. They have a lot of young faces on this team, not just John Wall. One of their more intriguing players that they are very high on is on the court right now, Kevin Serafin, 20 years old, coming from Cholet in France. The Cholet team did very well last year in the European League Finals. 6'9", 260 pounds. Before the draft, the name I kept hearing was Nene. This guy is the exact spitting image of Nene. He plays the same way as Nene. He looks like Nene. What do you see from him in your brief time seeing him right so far?
When I look at him, I see clearly that Ernie Grunfeld was trying to get tougher, was trying to get stronger. When he gets in slightly better condition, he's not in 100 tip-top shape yet because he had an injury, so it kind of retarded his process a little bit. But he's a banger. He's a physical guy. He's one of those guys that when he sets a screen, you feel it. He's one of those players that you don't have to run a lot of plays for. He's not going to expect to get the ball. But yet when he does get it, he's not one of those guys that you can just run away from because he can use either hand around the basket. I just like his no-nonsense approach. When you look at Booker, when you look at Njai, when you look at Serafin, these are guys that approach the game very seriously. There's not a lot of smiling on the court. They're bumping you, they're touching you, they're trying to get to cutters. And those are the kind of positions that don't always get the attention, but are so vital. Serafin's going to be one of those guys that clogs up the middle. He has to be careful about picking up unnecessary fouls, but once he learns the tempo and the pace and gets in better condition, he's going to be a mainstay in this league for quite some time.
You'll see as Serafin's running up and down the court, he's got that left knee brace, as you mentioned, Ron. He had a little cartilage tear during the playoffs. In fact, he could not play for Cholet when they got to the semifinals, I believe, over in the EuroLeague playoffs. but he's fine. He does have to get in shape.
Yes.
Another guy that's coming off of injury for the Wizards, very important to them, Andre Bloch. Again, as we mentioned, he had an injury in the offseason. He's not going to be available probably till very late in camp. They hope that he'll be ready to play at the start of the regular season.
And what's so interesting about Andre is he's the kind of talent that fits with anybody. He can play with a Seraphin. He can play with a John Wall. Because he has so much dexterity in his game, he can post up, he can blow out, he can start fast breaks. You know, he can knock down the trailer right around the top of the key. He is such a skilled player. When I watch Andre, you just cringe. Because he does things that guys have to spend hours and years working on that he'll just be able to do naturally. Now, once he starts to take, you know, more of an appreciation for what it's like to be a consummate pro, to come to work every day, to you know, stay in tip-top shape, to now go from being a guy that was the third player that played with Karan and Antoine to now you're the guy every single night, and then can you respond and the responsibility that takes.
Maturity, let's go to Andre Bloch right now. He's mic'd up.
I'm liking the way he stepped up. Matter of fact, where he at? Oh, he down there sitting down. I don't get my energy. Dunk that.
We were saying before we went to Andre Bloch, talent's never been the question with Andre Bloch.
No, sir.
He has talent. He has big-time talent. It's been maturity. It's been consistency.
But, you know, I've seen him making a step in the right direction. You know, in the preseason workouts when the guys were coming up playing pickup, he would still stick around, you know, and give pointers to some of the young guys and try to, you know, be a part of the group even though he physically couldn't play. And that is huge. And I think that's a step which in years past he may have come in, got his treatment, and then left. He stayed and is trying to be part of the group.
Let's go back to Andre.
I can already see it. You know, we got some doubters, but it's always good to have doubters, man. You gotta prove somebody wrong at the end of the day. Oh man, I'm feeling good, man. You know, I'm trying to get back on the court. So I gotta get, you know, in shape properly first before I get back on the court. You know, but Rome wasn't built in a day, so I gotta take my time. Gotta casually get into it. But I'm gonna get there, man. Give me about a week and a half, two. I'm definitely missing no games this year. I don't plan on missing no games this year.
Rome wasn't built in a day. He's a history buff, too.
That's right. Who knew he was a history major? He broke his foot in the summer and is recovering from that. But we gotta put a bow on Andre Bloch here. We talked about this. Now, last year, after all the trades, he got the ball. There was nobody else. He put up huge numbers, big numbers. They didn't win a lot of games when he put up those numbers.
But
is he going to be able to adjust now that they have Gilbert Arenas back, now that they have John Wall, now that they have Kirk Heinrich, now that JaVale McGee is bigger, stronger, more physical? Can he adjust to not scoring as much? Because now once you put up numbers and you're the guy, a lot of guys in this league want to keep being the guy.
Well, yes, to answer your question, he will be able to adjust because his role, he has logged more time and more minutes in this league at being the other guy as opposed to being the guy. So he will be able to downshift a bit. But if you look at this roster, he is the best low post scorer that they have.
No question.
So he will still have to play a very vital role when it comes to putting up points, when it comes to putting up statistical numbers. So they're still going to need him to be Andre Bloch. You just now have to incorporate Gil. And I think once if Gil and he can find a rhythm and play off of each other, when teams start to double Gil, he's now wide open. Andre is talented enough where in certain situations he will warrant a double team. When the double team comes to him, he'll spot up, Gil will spot up and he'll be able to find Gil. So yes, I think he will be able to make that adjustment because he is still one of the guys on this team. They need him to be, a 20-point guy for them to grab wins in this league.
Another guy that the Wizards, well, he's entering a point of his career where it's a sink or swim situation, and that's Nick Young.
Yes.
Their first-round pick from a few years ago, 16th pick overall, came in with great anticipation, the same class as Thaddeus Young and Al Thornton, as a matter of fact. And really just hasn't gotten it done. It just has not happened on a consistent basis in Washington so far. They look at him now, not as a two-guard really, but as a small forward, and that's where, if he's going to play on this team, that's where the minutes are for him.
Well, you know, the big knock on him is maturity or lack thereof. You know, he's a loosey-goosey kind of guy, always upbeat. He has to take the game slightly, you know, a little bit more serious than he has in the past. Offensively, Nick can do everything there is to do on the floor. You know, you don't have to wonder if he can shoot a runner, if he can shoot a floater, if he can knock down the three, if he can create his own shot. He has to take the defensive end far more serious than he has. He has to learn defensive schemes. It's not just about always guarding your man. It's the team defense philosophy. You know, when there's a double team, where do I rotate? Who do I not rotate to? Who do I have to get to quicker? All of those little things that when you're in college or when you're in high school or when you're the man that you may not put an emphasis on and you're able to get away with, at this level you get embarrassed. Right. And so he's at you made a heck of a point. He's at the point in his career, either he's going to be a mainstay in this league or he's going to find himself potentially in the D League or maybe even overseas.
Yeah, it's a tough situation, as there just aren't going to be any minutes in the backcourt. We know that with Wall, Arenas, and Heinrich, they got those 24 minutes a night locked up at those two guard spots. There's just not going to be much run there.
But he'll have his chance again, and we can't say that enough. He will have an opportunity to show that he can be a contributor at the small forward spot. He's 6'6", he has good size, a tremendous athlete. He just now has to lock in defensively and do some of those things. Offensively, yes. Now, we talked earlier, Flip has a thick playbook. Will Nick be able to make the adjustments when Flip starts to go deep into that playbook and change some things? Will he be able to make the adjustment from being a two-guard to a small forward? Little things like that is what's going to separate him.
That last number you saw is the number that keeps him coming back. You know, when you shoot 41% from three in the NBA,
it's effortless.
Yeah.
He does it. Scoring the ball, Nick Young can do that. Yeah. But to last in this league, there's so many other things that you have to be able to do to stick and to be considered a player in this league.
Yeah, and again, it's gotten much tougher. It's gotten much tougher for him because of Kirk Heinrich's arrival in Washington. And Kirk Heinrich is a guy that the Wizards have been coveting for the last 3 years, basically. Yeah. They have tried to get him in trades all different kinds of ways. It just turned out that because the Bulls were a player in the LeBron sweepstakes, they wanted to clear as much room as possible for all the free agents, that they finally decided that they were going to trade Kirk Heinrich. And now he's here with the Wizards, and this is a guy that they really are excited about having on the basketball court.
It's great to be wanted, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, they want him. This was not like a throw-in.
They've wanted him for quite some time. When you take a look, last year, you know, he averaged 10 points, 4 assists. You know, he's one of those guys that this year can average 15 if needed, if need be. You know, he's one of those guys that can give it to you offensively, he can give it to you defensively, he can play the off-guard position, or he can run your team. He's flexible, and that's why he's had longevity, and that's why he's had success, because you can put him in different spots on the team. Who would have thought, and I bet you he is going to be as an important piece to the success of this Washington Wizards ball club as a guy like a John Wall. And you would think right off the bat, well, why would you say that?
Just got ripped by Lester Hudson, but go ahead.
But because he can play multiple positions. If Gil isn't 100%, he can fill in off the ball. If John is struggling making the transition to running an NBA team, he can play the point guard position. He understands what it's like to be in this league. And with all of his skills offensively, he can defend.
He's the Wizards say, without a question, he is the best perimeter defender that they have, period. And it's not even close. We have seen him in the playoffs the last couple of years have some great success. Against Boston a couple of years ago, even against Cleveland last year, and they didn't win that series, obviously, but he really played well in the playoffs. So this is a veteran guy with playoff experience. And another important thing for the Wizards, they loved the way he worked with Derrick Rose in Chicago. Derrick Rose was the #1 pick, all the attention on him, but Kirk Heinrich really helped him develop and grow and learn a lot of the tricks of the trade playing that position.
Well, what he showed was that he could be a team player.
Exactly.
You know, he was the guy. Then all of a sudden you come in, you know, this new superstar, Derrick Rose, everyone is watching. Is he going to pout? Will he be able to make the adjustment? And he made it seamless. He made it seamlessly. You know, he slid over, he backed him up, he did what was needed. He helped him become the guy, and they're hoping that he can play a very similar role with John Wall.
Yeah, it's critically important that you have that someone be that mentor. John Wall has a lot to learn about professional basketball, you know, and you don't just have one mentor. You have all kinds of different mentors. Family mentors can be involved with that. Obviously, you know, coaches and friends, but teammates may be the most important mentors of all.
If you want to have success on the floor, you need not listen to most of those other mentors. You need to listen to your coaches, and you need to listen to your teammates, the sensible ones.
Right, that's
the
right.
sensible teammates, because those are the ones that can teach you the little things that you really need to know. You know, it's interesting when you watch young guys come into the league, right off the bat, they're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. That's why they usually hit the rookie wall.
Yeah.
Because once you know, the game plan gets out on how to stop them, then you now need to go to your veterans like a Kurt Heinrich. Then you need to go to your veterans like a Gilbert Arenas and say, you know what, how do I get over this rookie wall? And then that's when the learning process really starts to take place for a lot of rookies.
As we see Trevor Booker, one of the first-round picks the Wizards got on draft night, goes to the basket. We're going to take a little break here from George Mason University. But stick and stay, because we got more from Real Training Camp, Washington Wizards on NBA TV. We are back. We are live at Real Training Camp with the Washington Wizards at George Mason University. The Wizards doing some midnight madness, NBA style, to get their training camp open. A rebuild project, perhaps unlike any other in recent league history. David Aldridge here, along with Ron Thompson. The Wizards, a team in flux, a team that's in transition. We know all about the #1 pick, John Wall, and some of their other young players that'll be there, but they have some guys that are trying to maybe make that last roster spot or two. A couple of them out on the floor right now. We'll get to them. One of them, #3, Lester Hudson. And if you watched the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas, you may remember Lester Hudson having some monster games, including hitting a three-pointer at the buzzer to win one of the most exciting games, beating the New Orleans Hornets in Vegas this summer. This is a guy with an incredible story. Paid his own way through school when he was not eligible to play college basketball yet. He got his GED at Southwest Tennessee Community College so that he could become eligible to play at Tennessee Martin. As I mentioned, he wasn't eligible for a year, paid his way through school, went to Tennessee Martin. His first week as a Division I player, he gave Memphis 35. So this is an incredible story. He was with the Celtics last year, also the Memphis Grizzlies. Did not play a lot. The Wizards had him on their summer league team. And this is a guy that you really root for and hope that he finds some way to stick.
David, him making this team is a long shot, but his whole career has been a bunch of long shots.
That's right.
So in his mind, he has just as much chance of making this ball club as anyone else out here. And as you said, he's one of those guys you root for because you just simply like the way he approaches the game. He plays hard, he picks up full, he fights his way through screens, he doesn't complain, and he earns your respect quickly.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that'll test you right away defensively or test you offensively. He makes you respect the fact that he's on the floor and not look at the fact that he went to Tennessee Martin.
Yeah, I mean, he has been a real surprise for the Wizards in camp. He's played very well. But it's going to be difficult for him to make this team with, as we said many times, when you've got, 48 minutes at 2 guard spots locked up between 3 guys. I mean, those 3 guys, Arenas, Heinrich, Wall, are going to split those 96 minutes.
Right.
So there's just not going to be a lot of minutes for anybody else. But Lester Hudson is a guy that, again, has shown that he will compete. You see John Wall with the old MJ move. Let me miss this free throw on purpose.
He just got in there.
Dive in.
Step too soon. Flip said, look, I've seen enough of that. Let me break this down and get some drills in before someone gets hurt.
There's John Wall showing you some of the nastiness that he showed at Kentucky.
Now keep in mind, that's a point guard.
Yeah.
That's a point. It's not a power forward. That's not a small forward. That's not a center. That's your point guard getting up like
The
that.
vertical he showed at the Chicago pre-draft camp. I mean, I think everybody got a feel for what this guy can really do physically, and it's not, but it's not the leaping ability. He's got a gear, and people, and you don't like to make comparisons a lot of times because they're wrong, frankly. But the gear he have is Iversonian.
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
But you know, he has that extra, that like you said, he has that gear. When you see him going, you see a hole open up, and he gets through it in a moment's notice. But what I like about John Wall more than just his ability to play basketball is he's serious. You know, he drills. He's the first one in the gym. He's the last one to leave. He's one of those guys that before, you know, the pickup game started, he was coming back to the gym late at night when the coaches weren't around to see that he was there, trying to get into the gym to get the extra work in. And he's a gym rat. He's one of those guys that loves the smell of the shellac. He loves the smell of the leather ball and the sweat. He has to be in the gym.
Let's look at John Wall as he compares to some of the #1 picks in recent years in the NBA. I've always said you don't win with young in the NBA, Ron. It's very hard. But some guys have managed to help turn their teams around. You look at Dwight Howard, you look at Andrew Bogut in Milwaukee, Andrea Bargnani in Toronto. They won 20 more games his rookie year than they did the year before. There's Derrick Rose at +8, and what will John Wall do? But remember, those guys played on teams that had a lot of veteran players.
Exactly.
There aren't many veterans here in Washington.
And also, most of those guys were post guys, except for Derrick Rose. Most of those guys were guys, big guys clogging up the middle that had good perimeter play around them. John Wall, you haven't seen, you know, a guy like him since a guy like an Allen Iverson that is coming to an organization that is being relied upon to turn everything around.
Tom Izzo, Michigan State's own, making a late night appearance here. Nobody to recruit here, Tom.
Wait, I'm telling you, he's here to root on one of his former players, Cartier Martin.
Yeah.
You know, that shows a lot.
Sure.
He's lobbying for the Washington Wizards to pick him up. For Tom Izzo to come down here to push and lobby for this guy who hadn't played for him for over a year now, you know, it means an awful lot. It says a lot about Cartier's character.
Cartier Martin is a very intriguing guy. We talk about long shots to make this team. He was on the Wizards team at the start of last season, played some for Golden State. But this is a guy who really in the D-League, Ron, had a great impact on the Iowa Energy. Nick Nurse, one of the best coaches in the D-League. They were 27-7 in games that Cartier Martin played. You talk about character and leadership. Those are traits that show wherever you're playing. And he showed great leadership traits down there and got it done. Let's probably go in and see what Flip Saunders is talking about. He's mic'd up.
Okay, so we want to always make the game as far as easy. Okay, what we're going to have here, we'll go 1, 2, 3. We'll wave to the crowd. JaVale's going to say something to the crowd. We got T-shirts and to go over there, hand out and throw out to the crowd. Okay, what do we got here?
Team on three, team on three, team on three.
1, 2, 3. Here we go. Wave to the crowd. Here we go.
Well choreographed. They are waving very nicely, just as their coach asked them to do, as they wrap up the scrimmage portion of Midnight Madness here at George Mason University. The Wizards, a team in flux, Ron.
No question, no question. But still, even though they're a team in flux, I think it still comes down to Gilbert Arenas.
Yeah.
He is still the key to how this team will go. Will he gel? Will he mix well with the John Wall? Can this team play a half-court offense, or do they just have to go up and down?
Yeah.
Can they play a half-court defense? Can Gilbert and John continually get over pick and rolls and screens for the ball? But the success of this team is still contingent upon how well Gil plays and is he able to be consistent.
Today at Media Day, Monday afternoon, there was none of the sunny Gil. It was surly Gil. You know, he was very serious, matter of fact, a lot of 1- and 2-word answers. And this is an indication, I think, Ron, of a guy, seriousness of purpose is job one this year as he reestablishes himself.
Well, Dave, what else is there to talk about?
Yeah.
You know, you've been through the ups and downs, you've been through the highs, he's certainly been through the lows. Now it's time to just play, and I think he's taking that approach.
When we come back, after a quick break, we're going to talk to the team president, Ernie Grunfeld, as we continue with real training camp, Washington Wizards style, late night on NBA TV. We are back at the Patriot Center at George Mason University. Midnight Madness, the Washington Wizards beginning their training camp, beginning their rebuilding process, beginning the long climb back. And there's the man, Gilbert Arenas. About so much has been written the last 6 months, but physically, he looks very, very good. David Aldridge with Ron Thompson, joined by the Wizards team president, Ernie Grunfeld. And Ernie, you've seen Gilbert for the last couple of weeks now, last few weeks really, working out in Washington. He looks in very good shape.
No, he's in great shape. He's got a little pop in his step, and he's really motivated. He's put in a lot of hard work this summer, and he's enjoying being back out there doing the thing he loves to do and being with his teammates.
You know, this team, after what happened last season with all of the tragic death of Abe Pohl and everything that happened, this team really was down in the bottom. How do you start getting them back up, not just so much on the court, but really rebuilding the brand with the community?
Well, actually, the whole thing started last year around the trade deadline, when we made some major trades. We wanted to start the rebuilding process back then. We created a lot of cap room. We allowed our young players to get valuable playing time. Players like Andre Bloch, JaVale McGee, Nick Young got a lot of playing time at the end of last season. I think that's really helped them. And we only have 4 players back from last year's season. We have new ownership now with Ted Leonsis, and our plan was to build through the draft and build with young, talented players. Now, Ted also owns the Capitals, and he went through this rebuilding kind of process in hockey. So he understands it's a process. It's going to take some time, and I think we put together a young, talented group, and now we're going to have to see how it comes together and who we're going to keep at the end of the day and continue the rebuilding process. And having said that, you also need some veteran players when you're in rebuilding mode, someone who can lead some of the younger guys, and Josh Howard, we think, can help us in that. And
you touched on the fact that the plan was to build through the draft. John Wall aside, he's the obvious. What were you trying to accomplish with the guys that you picked up in the draft?
Well, obviously, to get the #1 pick, you get lucky.
Right.
But we also felt like we needed some more physicality. We needed some more toughness in the front court. And we were able to get a couple of players that we think have real good upside as far as providing that. Maybe not put up huge numbers, but players that do some of the dirty work that's necessary if you're going to have a winning team.
Right. Gilbert Arenas back physically, but obviously coming off a suspension. We all know what happened last year. Once again, describe the decision-making process this organization made to say, we're going to bring Gilbert back. We're going to reestablish him as a major part of this basketball team.
Well, we've said that all along. We've always said Gilbert is part of this team, and he's going to be with us. And you have to give him credit because he went through a tough time. He's come back. He didn't give up. He put in a tremendous amount of work in the offseason, as you can tell by the great shape he's in. And he's motivated. I mean, Gilbert is one of the top players in this game when he's playing up to his potential. He had 3 years where he averaged 28 a game, and big scorer, and he could set his teammates up also. So I think he's going to come out and have a real good year, and I think he can't wait to just get out there and do the things he likes to do.
Looking down the road, you see the group of guys that you have now. What pieces do you think you may want to improve on, or what steps do you may want to take later on in terms of picking guys up?
Well, you know, the players really tell us what to do by how they perform, and we have some players now. We want to see how this group kind of comes together and see which players improve and which players fit well together. And once we figure that out, we'll make the rest of our moves that we have to make. But I think we have a good balance. I think we have a pretty strong back court right now. Our front court is athletic and big, but inexperienced.
Right.
So we're going to have to see how that experience factor comes around. And in the meantime, I think the guards are going to have to kind of lead the way until our young big guys get accustomed to playing on a nightly basis.
Let's talk about one of those big guys, Andre Bloch. You gave him a new contract last week. You didn't have to give him a new contract. And people may ask, well, why would you give, you know, a 5-year deal to somebody on a team that really did not have a very good year? Talk about what you see from him and what you need from him this year.
Well, you know, it's hard to get big guys in this league, especially skilled big men. When Andre got his opportunity last year, he averaged over 22 points a game and 8.5 rebounds in the last 32 games. He's only 24 years old, and we had some cap room. Now, if we don't use our cap room, we're not going to be able to use it down the road.
Right.
So by doing the contract right now, we pay a little bit more now, but we save down the road, which will help us in the last 3 years of this contract from a salary cap standpoint.
As you go forward with this rebuild, the cap room that you still have a little bit of cap room now, but what do you think is possible, if not next summer, maybe the summer after? What are some of the long-term goals you think you can accomplish with cap room?
Well, again, we have a new collective bargaining agreement coming up after this year, and we don't know what all the rules are going to be.
Yeah.
But we want to keep flexible. We want to keep our youth, and we want to keep the players that are going to perform up to the level that we think they need to perform up to, and the players that are going to do what's necessary to be part of a winning team. We want players that are willing to sacrifice, players that are going to be tough, players that are going to play the right way, and players that winning and losing matter to. And I think that's where John Wall comes into play. Obviously, we got lucky to get the #1 pick, and he was available.
You need a little bit of luck.
You do need a little bit of luck, especially after last year for us. But we got lucky. We got John, and John cares about winning and losing. He plays with a certain type of intensity that's contagious. He comes out, he's a good defensive player. He gets after it offensively, obviously. He's super quick and can penetrate and set his teammates up. He's one of these rare players that can make his teammates better. Of course, he still has a lot to learn.
Right.
He's also going to be a rookie, but I think it's more about his attitude that he brings to the table that up to this point we've been really impressed with.
Well, Ernie, thanks for stopping by. It's a late night. It's been a long day for everybody, but a lot of energy in this building.
Absolutely. We're really grateful to these fans. 3,000 or 4,000 who came out, and it was a fun night.
All right, thanks for stopping by.
All right, Dave. All
right, more of Real Training Camp, Washington Wizards style, when we come back on NBA TV. It's Real Training Camp, Washington Wizards style, as they came out to do a little midnight madness at George Mason University and the #1 pick in the NBA draft. Leading it up. Oh, are we working on something there with Gilbert Arenas?
Yeah, it's called respect.
Okay, got a little something going on. John Wall joins us now on Real Training Camp. David Aldridge with Ron Thompson. And John, there's been so much made about your impact on this franchise, the desperate need this franchise had for some positive news. How do you deal with the expectations that have nothing to do with basketball that have been put on you?
First of all, you thank God for being these opportunities to be in this situation, but at the same time, you just gotta be thankful for them. And I just don't really bother. I just try to focus on basketball and having a good time and preparing for this season.
What was it like for you today to finally get out on the court, to get the jitters out of your system? What was that like going from college to now it's official, you're in the NBA?
It meant a whole lot. You know, I was nervous coming out here. Everybody's nervous for their first time. We all anxious to get out here on the court. So, yeah, I made a couple of passes. And the best thing for me is to do is to learn. You know, Kurt Heinrich was a great defensive guy, and Gilbert's a great leader. So it's so much I can learn from those guys. So all I got to do is just focus on my decision-making. That's the key thing I want to work on.
What is the biggest transition that you think you're going to have to make from college now being into the NBA?
Defensive-wise, you know how teams are going to guard me. I know they're all going to go on the screens, and I have to be able to knock that shot down, but I can't get shot happy and force myself to shoot it. But if guys are going to go in, I have to have the confidence in myself to make it. And my decision-making, that was one thing I had in college. You know, I was forced to try to make a spectacular play when I could have made the easy play. So that's the main thing I got to really work on.
One of the things that a lot of young point guards have to work on is controlling their speed. Obviously, you can get from point A to point B as quick as anybody, but sometimes in the league you can go too fast. What have you learned so far about using that speed at the right time, but then also knowing when to pull back?
It's great. This summer working out, Coach Strickland and Coach Sam Cassell and Coach Flip Saunders really taught me, you know, this game is going to be fast. It's faster than college, but at the same time, you got to learn how to change speed. So I'm learning as much as I can. You know, I don't have to go full speed every time. I can slow it up and then burst into my speed. And you look at guys like Derrick Rose and Rajon Rondo, those are perfect guys that does it at a great speed. You know, Derrick Rose will look like he's cruising, and then all of a sudden he's gone. So I'm learning as much as I can from those guys. Even though I'm on this NBA level, it's so much I can learn from other players, and that's the best thing I can do.
Now, you've played with Gilbert now for a few weeks, and everybody who asked me about the Wizards and you know you've gotten the question a million times about you playing with him. What have you learned about playing with him so far?
A great guy, can score in different ways. You know, a couple years ago, he was one of the top leading scorers in the league. You know, he can shoot it from the outside, and he gets to the basket at will. So, and he makes it look so effortless. When we play pickup, I say, how you make it look so effortless. I'm breaking sweats, and I'm scoring here and there and find the other guy, but he make it look so effortless. And there's so much you can learn from that and that type of play. You know, I'm learning different moves from him and how to use my jab steps. So he's a great talent, and the best thing we can do is get our chemistry down pat, and hopefully we play good this year.
John, how beneficial was it for you this summer to go to Las Vegas, to play with a guy like a JaVale McGee, to play with some of the other guys, to kind of learn what their game was like, and for them to learn your game and your pace and your tempo as well?
Oh, it's great. Coach Saunders tells me every day we're going to push the ball, but at times we got to learn how to slow it down. And that's one thing people want to know, could I run a half-court set team? And I think I proved myself in college, but at the same time, I need to prove myself on this level. I haven't proven myself in the real game. I did it in summer league, and that's good to do it there, but you have to prove yourself on top level. And like I said, you have a guy like JaVale McGee. He's kind of like a Dwight Howard, not the same exact athleticism, but you can basically throw anywhere near the rim, and he's going to get in. One game we had Nick Young playing with us, and he's the type of guy that can score the ball in bunches.
Do you feel like you really do have to keep proving yourself? Is that something that when you are out on the floor, are you thinking, you know what, I had to establish myself in high school. I got to college. I had to establish myself and let them know who I was in college. Now I'm in the NBA. Do you get the feel that you have to keep continuing to prove that you belong?
Yeah, I feel every night, you know, nobody, like I got a quote from Michael Jordan. He said he tried to play his best every night because you never know, this might be somebody first or last time I ever seen you play. That's one of the greatest quotes I ever heard. So every night I go out there and try to give 110%. And no matter, it might be a bad shooting night, but you can do the things on the offensive end. You can do the defensive end to help your team win. So every night and every day I try to prove myself. Even in workouts, I try to prove myself to get better in certain areas that I need to.
John, thank you very much for stopping by. We know it's always a busy day for you every day, and good luck in your NBA career as it gets started.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right, the Washington Wizards wrapping it up with real training camp, but JaVale McGee wrapping it up with some autographs for some fans that have stayed behind late into the night here at the Patriot Center at George Mason University. And Ronnie, you know, we have to be realistic about the Washington Wizards. We know that this is a team that's got some talent and some pieces and some skill, but they may be in the most difficult division in the NBA right now, the Southeast Division. When you look at what Miami did this summer with the Super Friends, Orlando was in the Eastern Conference Finals. You know, the Hawks won 50 games and made the second round of the playoffs. The Bobcats made the playoffs for the first time. It's going to be real difficult for this team to not forget making the playoffs, but to be a playoff contender in the East.
Dave, there's no question about that because there's no replacement for age and experience. This is a team that is very young. They're very youthful. They have some holes. They don't have an experienced post guy, you know, on the floor. They have some gaps and some pieces that they need to fill on the perimeter as well. So, you know, but what they have to do is not worry about what they don't have. The Eastern Conference is very tough. When you look at Orlando, when you look at Atlanta, you know, when you look at Boston, yes, those teams are loaded. But they have to try to play to their strength, and their strength is going to be their ability to get up and down the floor. They're going to have to use their youthful way about them to their benefit, you know, and they're going to have to do that defensively. They're going to have to try to trap and scramble because they're not going to be able to just pound it out in the half court defensively like a lot of teams are able to do. They're not going to be able to pound it out in the half court offensively like a lot of teams. So they're going to have to figure out some things to have some success this year, but they will.
Young teams don't win in the NBA. They just don't.
Right.
Now, people look at Oklahoma City and say, well, that team's young and they won. They have an incredible talent in Kevin Durant. Can the Wizards surprise teams with John Wall and Arenas because of their offensive explosive capabilities?
I think that Ted said it best. They will sneak up on a lot of teams. I think they will grab some wins that people don't expect them to be able to grab. But when it's all said and done, to expect this team to get to the playoffs and have success. The way it's currently comprised, I think it's a very, very tough task. I think their goal this year should be just to get better.
Yep.
Last year, the Washington Wizards won 26 games. Let's shoot for whatever we do above that. That's a positive.
Yeah. Well, Ronnie, we made it. I'm sleepy, but we made it. We made
I
it.
can go for another hour. I'm not tired at all.
I can't. I have to go to bed now. Well, we want to thank you for staying up late tonight on NBA TV. Watching the Washington Wizards get their training camp started, it's going to be an interesting climb for this team, but you can always sell hope, and the Wizards do finally, at long last, have some hope. As we watch an interesting night at George Mason University, the Washington Wizards, John Wall, Gilbert Arenas is back. We will see what the Wizards do in the Eastern Conference and in the NBA this season. For Ron Thompson, I'm David Aldridge. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed Real Training Camp with the Washington Wizards.